Shalom, Yashrala. This is your brother Dawada from GMS St. Petersburg, Florida, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to get into this real quick video, basically just dealing with the conditions of Jake, all right, and the curses that we up under, and that the so-called white man is constantly keeping us down under his foot, you know. So I'm gonna just try to basically I'm gonna read this here scripture, and then I'm gonna try to get into this video, Lord willing, without any interruptions, and it's not gonna be that long, all right. So just to the point, this is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 43. It says, "The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail." All right. I can keep reading verse 45. "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou beest destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahweh thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee." All right. Now, nevertheless, when you read this, verse 15 on down to 68, these are all the curses. All right. So it's not just the curses about the borrower and things like that. But nevertheless, this is the point that I wanted to get into. All right. That basically, how do I say, I'm going to show you a visual representation of how it's being called out basically into the public. All right. And now going into a lot of these different things, people ask why, how come so-called black people are always at the bottom and this and that, so on and so forth, Well, a lot of these things, first and foremost, we're under these curses. But here in America, they have these systems that set up to so-called oppress and keep Jake down. All right. So, for instance, like they're going to give you in this here video, like an example, they're going to talk about housing loans and things like that. Right. Where they talk about, housing. Now, this is very important because, white people have been given, they're going to go into there, where they talk about basically how he was given advantages when getting loans and stuff. But nevertheless, they used to sell Native American Indian land. They used to steal it from the natives and sell it off basically on pennies on the dollar. Not even that. You can go get a whole lot of land for a very cheap price, But nevertheless, evicting us and stealing the land and, giving it to their own people. Not just that, they was giving them vouchers and things like that for homes and things like that, land and all kind of things like that. So one of the important things about when the time that you're born onto this planet Earth, if your parents own their own house, if they already own their own house and it's paid off, you're in a way better seat than anybody else. Because of why? That house, first and foremost, your parents, they don't have to spend the majority of their paycheck or their income, all right, paying for a roof over top of their head. All right. They can now take the majority of their income and invest into their children, whether it's so-called sending them off to college, putting money aside for college, putting it aside money for a trust fund, putting the money aside for a business, starting a business to pass down to their children and certain things like that. All right. Already, they can spend the majority of their life investing into their children. All right. With all their income, instead of like us, you know what I'm saying? We're not, our parents are living in like apartments and things like that. We renters, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of times when we were born, and you'll live your whole life basically in that renting state or on governmental housing and things like that. So therefore, you don't really have a house to pass down to your children. All right. And you never make enough money to buy your own house, start your own business, or these types of things that you can pass, these assets which have money that you can pass down to your children. So, generation after generation, we just born and, we might live as welfare babies our whole life. You know what I'm saying? Or, our parents are renters living in apartments. We grow up and we start living in apartments and renting our whole life. All right. Because of why? These things that we've been instilled inside of our mind, we don't really know how to get up on our own feet. We wasn't taught that right plan. Our people tell us, go to school, save your money up, get a good job and save your money, buy your house, so on and so forth. So-called white people don't do it that way. But this is why that's ensuring us to be in these so-called debt slaves unto them. All right. This is why we don't never come up for another reason. These, so-called white people don't send their kids to college for the same reason we send our kids to college for. Proof is in the pudding, A lot of these damn kids, these white kids is in these fraternities and sororities having all these sex parties, drinking and getting all toe up. And they not passing. They're not learning nothing. All right. Their purpose is that the parents are sending them to these colleges for what? To get in these sororities and fraternities for networking. Also for them to meet their spouses, and when they get married, their parents be like, "Oh, y'all ain't got to work for a couple years. We're going to take care of y'all. Y'all just get on y'all feet, go out there, go get your own house. You can spend your first 5 years, you know what I'm saying? you know what I'm saying, getting a foundation, a sure foundation under your feet, so you can so-called have a head start in life. Okay, we don't do our kids that way. We send them to school to so-called get a degree, which they still have to go out there and beg the so-called white man and give them the job and pay them a so-called fair compensation, which now they're a debt slave to pay off their damn degrees. They don't really have that type of money. They spending the majority of their income paying back a student loan. God forbid they have some kids or something like that. Again, you see where they don't have time and the resources to put into their children. They got to pay back a student loan and keeping the roof over their head. All right. And another thing with these generational houses that's being passed down for these damn Edomites. All right. Like you're going to see in this here video, they might give them a voucher or whatever for a free house or whatever, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Or even, just things might just be cheap. Like when your grandparents was real young, like a Ford Mustang might have been like $2,500. Now them shits is like $30,000-$40,000. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, let's say your grandparents or somebody like that got a house and some property way back when, I only paid $6,000 or $15,000 for this house. You know what I'm saying? In which they got a voucher or something for that damn house, some kind of stipend just to get that, right? So they got the house for $15,000. Houses appreciate, property appreciate, meaning gaining value. So now this $15,000 house that they was given, a $30,000 house that they was given or given a voucher for, all right, now they could sell it day one. Now they got $15,000 hard cash to go do whatever they want to go do with. Or they can sit on it. You know what I'm saying? They just sitting on the house. Now that $15,000 house turn to $30,000, $60,000, $90,000, $100,000, $200,000. All right, that's how they get all this land and like massive amounts of acres of land and everything like that. So now, you know what I'm saying? Their grandparents was given a house that valued at $30,000, but by the time he's ready to pass it down to his son, that $30,000 house is now worth $120,000. So he's basically giving his child $120,000 to do whatever he wanted to do with it. All right. Whether or not he wanted to just hold on to it for it to appreciate, or take that $120,000 and start back smaller again and keep building up. Well, maybe I'll go buy me 2 small houses, at $60,000 a piece, which are bigger. They'll appreciate. I can stay in one. The second one I can give down to generations on in. Again, they ain't got to sit here and worry about no finances for the roof over top of their head. And again, these houses are appreciating generation after generation. It's just creating money that they're just handing on down. All right. So nevertheless, I'm gonna read this one more time. We're gonna play this video. This is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 43. It says, "The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. And he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. And he shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail." All right. So let me grab this here video.
Official policy of the United States government until 1968. In my lifetime and the lifetime of 90 senators who serve today.
Not to keep cutting us off or anything like that, but hey, and since 1968, around the time that a lot of our parents was being born. So this was being done all the way up to the times your parents was being born, and you wonder why you ain't got shit. You know what I'm saying? It's not just because of it's your fault that you don't know this and that. Primarily, first and foremost, the whole thing is you under these curses. But as you can see, these things is being played out through these here Edomites. All right, this is what their whole plan and agenda is to do to you, to destroy your ass.
The policy of this government was to help white people buy homes and to deny that help to black people. And because the federal government has set the standard, private lenders enthusiastically.
Hang on, she started out by making a statement, so you'd be like, "Oh, this is just in the past." The people that was doing this, they still alive to this same day. All right, and a lot of them are still sitting in office. All right.
Policy of the United States government until 1968. In my lifetime and the lifetime of 90 senators who serve today, the official policy of this government was to help white people buy homes and to deny that help to black people. And because the federal government has set the standard, private lenders enthusiastically followed in Washington's lead. Homes are the way that millions of working families build some economic security. They pay down a mortgage and own an asset that, over time, often appreciates. A home serves as security to fund other ventures, to start a small business, or to send a youngster to college. And if grandma and grandpa can hang on to the home and get it paid off, they can often pass along an asset that boosts the finances of the next generation and the one after that.
Like I was saying, man, you be able to hand it. First of all, if you like your parents, their primary thing that they doing with their income, all right, is not paying bills like your mortgage, which is your biggest bill that you're gonna have. You can use that same money every month. Let's say your mortgage is $1,500 a month, right? You trying to pay that to keep your to keep a roof over your head, or even if you're paying that in rent. Some places your rent is like that, but nevertheless, you paying this much every month, you know what I'm saying? When you could be using that same $1,500 to invest into your child, put $1,500 a month for a business by the time they get older, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, that's some good money. Now they got a good head start in life, or you could just give them the cash. All right.
And that's exactly what white people have done for generations, but not black people. Systematically, over many decades, government policies that encourage mortgage companies to lend only to white borrowers cut the legs out from underneath minority families trying to build some family wealth. And the result has been exactly what you'd predict. It's contributed to a staggering gap of wealth between white communities and communities of color today. Here's one statistic from Massachusetts. According to the Boston Globe, the median net worth of white families living in Boston is $247,500, and the median net worth for a black family is $8.
Let that sink into your mind for a moment. I think I did a video on that, speaking on that at one point in time, where it's like, really, if you so-called Negroes got $25 cash money in your pocket, a 20 and a 5, you are at the top 1% of so-called black people in basically in the hard liquid cash that they have. You know what I'm saying? Most black people don't even use banks to begin with. So all the cash that they normally have on them is all the cash that they got. They don't really have assets. They don't have a home that has value. They live in an apartment. You know what I'm saying? Leasing a car or something like that, or the car that they have ain't really worth more than $2,000 or $3,000 anyway. You see what I'm saying? So really your net worth is only the money that you really got in your pocket. And really after all your bills is paid and you living from paycheck to paycheck and payday advance to payday advance, hey, the median net worth for you so-called black people, $8. You see what I'm saying? That was in Boston, but you know what I'm saying? If you take this on a larger scale, you know what I'm saying, over all of America, all right, if you want to be the top 25, the top 1% of so-called black people, with hard cash money, all you need is $25 in your pocket, all right?
Something that all Americans, regardless of race, should be ashamed of. When I was traveling around the country in the aftermath of the financial crisis, it became clear to me that the crash had made the problem worse. Subprime lenders who had peddled mortgages full of tricks and traps had specifically targeted minority borrowers. That meant that during the Great Recession, a huge number of minority borrowers lost their homes. And when rising home prices helped white Americans regain some financial security, communities of color, with their lower homeownership rates and their higher foreclosure rates, were often left behind. Again, just one example. According to Pew, between 2010 and 2013, the median wealth of white households grew by 2.4%, but the wealth of Hispanic households in that same time,
hang on, listen to this time frame,
were often left behind. Again, just one example. According to Pew, between 2010 and 2013, the median...
Now, this is right after the so-called, depression and things like that, the economic collapse of 2008, right on the heels of that. So-called white people was gaining in this time while everybody else, we were losing, all right?
Wealth of white households grew by 2.4%, but the wealth of Hispanic households in that same time fell by 14.3%, and the wealth of African American households fell by 33.7%.
Now, that's some crazy numbers, but why didn't she mention the Asians, the Africans, the Chinese, or whatever, whatnot? She just happened to mention the Latinos, which she was originally talking about the so-called Negroes. All right, just more proof that the northern tribes are the so-called Hispanic people that we say that they are. These are the Hispanics. All right, they under the same curses we under. All right.
Mortgage discrimination didn't end in the 1960s when formal redlining policies were abolished. It didn't end with the tightening of financial crisis. Lending discrimination is still alive and well in America in 2018. According to a new report that just came out from the Center for Investigative Reporting and Reveal, in 2015 and 2016, nearly two-thirds of mortgage lenders denied loans for people of color at higher rates than for white people. This problem affects both big lenders and small lenders, and it's nationwide. Minority borrowers were more likely to be denied a mortgage than white borrowers with the same income in 61 different cities across America. And how do we know that? Because of HMDA.
Before she get into the data, hey, so, you know, so-called equally yoked, you make the same amount of money, same qualifications, same credit and everything like that. But yet our people, you know what I'm saying? We being mistreated in that, you know, they're like, oh no, you can't, you don't have this, you can't have that. We're not going to give you the loan or for this mortgage. You know, we're not going to give you this here mortgage. But the so-called white people, they were giving them the mortgages. All right.
That's how we can see how much black families were charged for a mortgage, or how often Latino families were denied a chance to take out a mortgage, and we can compare those numbers with white borrowers who have the same incomes and same credit scores. Well, we can't do that if the data are missing. It is impossible to detect and fight mortgage discrimination without HMDA data. The bill on the floor of the Senate says that 85% of banks will no longer be required to report HMDA data, including the borrower's credit score and age, the loan's points, fees, and interest rate, and the property value. 85%. These data are essential to figuring out whether the borrower got a fair deal or not.
So I'm gonna just stop it there. Basically, she's going into basically like a tracking system, all right? And what you see is Esau's trying to cover all of those things up. So basically, hey, how do I say, he can't be exposed with all these things, because like what she's doing right now, based off of the data that they have, they could be like, oh, hey, wait a minute, so-called blacks, they're not just crazy. They are actually being systematically oppressed and held out and held down based on the data and the facts that they have. But now the so-called white man is trying to cover up those their facts. All right. But I just wanted to put this here video out basically to, you know, show and it's basically the so-called white man's words. You know what I'm saying? Them showing you and telling you out of their own data and their own finding that this is what they are systematically doing to you. Nobody, how do you say, paranoid, crazy, psycho, conspiracy theory. This is what they're doing in front of basically the world, for the world to see. All right. These things are out there. But, you know, our people like to keep those blinders on in Stockholm syndrome and just ignore all these different things, man. Esau, the so-called white man, hates you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. He's spending millions, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars to keep you at the bottom. All right. And why is that? Because you actually have better people than him. This is why he got to be all disproportionate with you. Even when you had the same credit score and the same money, he had to give his people the higher ups and keep you down. But again, according to the prophecies and the curses that we would be under, hey, you seen the proof is in the pudding here. This is from way back when, all the way up to 2018. All right. And it's still going on till this day. All right. So nothing has changed. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you are the children of Israel according to the scriptures. All right. And the proof is in the pudding. You fit the curses. All right. This is how we know who we are. All right. Only we fit these here curses. We didn't come out with these statistics. We didn't just come up and say this. This is somebody else telling us about all these things. But what we compare it up to the scriptures is like, yep, this is exactly who we are. All right. According to the prophecies, this is who the children of Israel are. All right, so with that, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying into the elect. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. And so until next time, I say, well, actually, real quick, I just wanted to put this back up on the screen in case you wanted to look this here up. You get the title of this here video. But until next time, I say, stay strong and shalom.